Magic Ballerina. Holly and the Rose Garden. Holly's Adventures. Written by Darcey Bussell. Prologue. In the soft, pale light, the girl stood with her head bent and her hands held lightly in front of her. There was a moment's silence, and then the first notes of the music began. For as long as the girl could remember, music had seemed to tell her of another world, a magical, exciting world that lay far, far away. She always felt if she could just close her eyes and lose herself, then she would get there. Maybe this time. As the music swirled inside her, she swept her arms above her head, rose onto her toes and began to dance. 1. The Rose Garden. Holly Wilde skipped down the steps of her ballet school. Twirling around, she thought about the class she had just finished. Her teacher, Madame Zaza, had been teaching them to dance like baby swans. They were holding an open day for parents, and that was the dance Holly's class were going to be performing. Feeling happy, Holly danced a few of the steps. As she moved forward, stepping first onto one leg and then the other, a picture of her mum doing the same dance up on her points a few years ago came into her mind. Holly's happiness ebbed away slightly. Her parents, who were divorced, both worked for different ballet companies, which meant they were away traveling a lot. Holly had come to live with her aunt and uncle. It had been hard at first, but it had helped that an amazing thing had happened to her. She'd been given a pair of red ballet shoes that were magic. They had the power to whisk her away to Enchantia, a land where characters from all the different ballets lived. It was wonderful to have magic in her life, but it didn't stop Holly missing her mom and dad. Before she had come to live with her aunt and uncle, she and her mom had traveled everywhere together. Holly sighed as she walked through the ballet school gates. She couldn't help wishing that she was going home to show her mom the steps she was learning for the open day. A car drew up. It was Holly's aunt. "Hi, Holly," she said and smiled. "Hi," Holly replied, opening the door. "There's a nice surprise waiting for you at home," her aunt said. "Your costume for the open day has arrived." Holly brightened up. "Oh, wow." She couldn't wait to get back. As soon as they got home, Holly hurried inside. On the kitchen table was a white tutu and a white headdress made of gorgeous feathers. She picked it up and ran upstairs. After changing into the costume, she got her red ballet shoes out of her bag and put them on. Walking over to the mirror, a sigh of delight escaped her. The costume was so beautiful. Holly touched the net of the tutu. Her arms crossed in front of her, she did an experimental plie and then moved with small light steps to the side. Catching sight of herself in the mirror, she paused. "Oh, Mom," she thought, "if you were here with me, we could dance together and practice like we used to." A wave of loneliness swept over her, but then Holly was distracted by a tingling in her feet. Glancing down, she saw that her shoes were glowing. "The magic's working," she realized, feeling a thrill of excitement. "I must be going to Enchantia again." She started to spin round and round, and the next second she was whirled away in a cloud of glittering colors. Holly's feet touched down on solid ground, and as the magical haze cleared, she saw that she was standing in a beautiful garden. There were roses everywhere, white ones, red ones, pink ones. Holly looked about her. Where was she? And where was her friend the white cat? He was usually there to meet her whenever she arrived in Enchantia. But just at that moment, Holly heard a loud shrieking cry. Hello? Holly called warily. There was another loud shriek, and out from behind a bush strode a peacock. His body was bright blue and he had golden eyes. On his head was a crest that looked almost like a little crown. His long tail of feathers trailed on the ground after him. Seeing Holly, he stared. Holly stepped backwards uncertainly. The bird's beak looked very sharp and he had sharp claws on his feet too. He looked her up and down intently, and then his eyes seemed suddenly to glitter with approval. Well, hello there. His tail feathers rose and snapped open like an enormous fan. And who might you be, my pretty little one? I'm Holly, she stammered. The peacock stalked towards her. Do you come here often? Holly said. Well. No tail, but what fabulous feathers you have, the peacock interrupted, examining her feathery headdress. I like them. Feathers. Holly's hand flew to her head as she realized that they must be confusing him into thinking she was a bird. Oh, but they're not real. I'm a girl, you see, not a dash, the peacock cawed with delight. And I am a boy. We shall be married. Married! Holly exclaimed. But we can't be. No. No? The peacock chuckled. Of course we must, my sweetest swanling. He lifted a claw and wagged it at her. No one, but no one, would ever say no to Peregrine the peacock. Pulling a golden hand mirror out from under his wing, he admired himself. Am I not the most handsome, most sophisticated, and most perfectly perfect peacock you have ever seen in the whole of Enchantia? Looking at himself smugly, he blew himself a small kiss before tucking the mirror away and turning back to Holly. You and I are the perfect match, even if you don't have a tail. We shall live here, strolling through the roses, pecking at the insects, sharing the juicy worms. Together forever. He ran a claw through his crest and fixed her with an expectant look. Well, what do you say? Holly backed away. Look, I'm really very sorry, but you've got it wrong, I can't marry you. I'm not a dash. A massive roar from behind her drowned out her words. Beauty! You're back! Peregrine screeched in alarm and Holly swung round. Behind her there was a huge man, with the head and shoulders of a giant beast. The beast's monstrous face was full of hope, but as she looked at him, his expression changed to one of anguish. No, he growled despairingly. You are not my beauty. Holly stood, petrified with fear. Trespasser, the beast roared. He marched down the slope and, picking her up as easily as if she was a doll, threw her over his shoulder. Holly heard the peacock screech again. My love! Peregrine will save you! He flew at the beast, but as he did so, the beast muttered a word. For a moment, Holly thought she saw a flash of white fur behind the peacock, but then, in a swirl of light, she and the beast were whisked away. 2. In the castle. Holly was dropped with a thud onto a hard floor. The beast who had whisked her away was standing before her, his lion-like face furious. She scrambled to her feet. She was in a bedroom. There were big windows with stone windowsills, a blue rug and a pretty patchwork quilt on the bed. How dare you trespass in my garden, child, the beast roared. You will stay here until you have learned your lesson. Walking out, he slammed the door and turned the key in the lock. Holly took a trembling breath. She'd had some strange adventures in Enchantia, but this seemed the strangest of the lot. First the love-struck peacock and now being locked in this room by a beast. What was going on? She stared at the door, remembering the beast's shout in the garden when he'd first seen her. Beauty, he'd said. Holly's forehead furrowed. Could he be from the story of Beauty and the Beast? She'd watched the DVD lots when she was little and she knew there was a ballet of it too. If he is the Beast from Beauty and the Beast, then he isn't really bad, she comforted herself. By thinking. When she looked out of the window, she could see she was in a castle. The room was in one of the towers and beneath her were roofs and turrets. From her viewpoint, she could see the gardens. Being so high up made her feel a bit wobbly, but as she started to move away from the window, she heard her name being called. Holly! She gasped. The white cat was climbing over one of the small roofs below, looking up at her. As usual, he was wearing his golden waistcoat and had his hat on his head. Cat, cried Holly, her heart leaping. The white cat waved anxiously. Oh, my glittering whiskers! I am glad to have found you. Hang on. I'll be with you in 2 shakes of a mouse's tail, I hope. His voice shook nervously. Be careful! Holly cried. She knew he didn't like heights any more than she did. Holly watched with her heart in her mouth as her friend jumped onto a small ledge and started to climb rapidly up the tower. Reaching the window ledge, he scrambled over and landed in a heap on the floor. Phew, he said, taking a deep, shaky breath. Holly rushed to help him up. But the white cat was already leaping to his feet. Now he was inside, his fear seemed to have vanished. He spun round and jumped into the air, his arms above his head, his legs thrown back. On landing, he held out his front paw to Holly. She took it in delight and, giggling, they curtsied and bowed to each other before hugging. Are you okay? Holly asked. It must have been really scary to climb up all that way. It was, but I had to do it. I couldn't leave you up here alone, said the cat. Oh, my shimmering tail, are you all right, Holly? You must have been terrified when the beast grabbed you like that. I arrived in the rose garden just as he whisked you away. It was scary, Holly admitted. Is he the beast from Beauty and the Beast? The very same, the white cat told her. Poor creature. He's having a hard time. Please forgive him for scaring you. Come and sit down and I'll tell you what's been going on. They sat down on the bed together. So, you know the story of Beauty and the Beast? The cat asked. Holly nodded. Beauty's father is traveling home from market and he stops and picks a rose from a garden because Beauty's asked for one, and the Beast, who is really an enchanted prince, sees him and gets angry. He only lets Beauty's father go because he promises that he will send his youngest daughter to stay with the Beast. Exactly so, declared the white cat. Beauty comes to the castle and the Beast falls in love with her. She seems to have fallen in love with him too, so we thought it would only be a matter of time before the enchantment on the prince would be broken. They were getting on brilliantly but then Beauty's father gets ill and she gets called to go back home. Holly interrupted, remembering the story. Yes, that's exactly where we're at, said the white cat. Beauty hasn't returned to the Beast like she said she would and he is really unhappy. He's decided that she doesn't love him after all. That's why he's in such a miserable mood. Can't someone just go to her father's and tell Beauty how much the Beast is missing her? Holly suggested. That's the problem, said the white cat. Beauty never got to her father's. When she left the castle, she just disappeared. I've been trying to use my magic to see where she is now, but it isn't working. He looked anxious. If I can't use my magic to see her, it must mean she's been captured by someone using strong powers to stop us from finding her. Wherever she is, we have to find her and bring her back. The longer the Beast is away from Beauty, the more his heart breaks. He could even die. What can I do to help? Said Holly quickly. Maybe I could try to find Beauty? The cat shook his head. The king has sent people out all over the land to do that. What would be a help is if you could keep the Beast busy until Beauty comes back. Talk to him, amuse him, take his mind off her if you can. Holly wasn't sure she liked the thought of looking after the Beast, but if that's what the white cat needed her to do, then so be it. Of course, she said. Thank you. The white cat hugged her. Just don't tell the Beast that Beauty has been taken away by someone wicked. He thinks she's still at her father's. We're all worried that if the beast learns that someone has captured Beauty, he might get so cross, he'll go on the rampage and hurt himself or others. The white cat went to the window. I'll climb down and explain to the beast who you are, then I'm sure he'll let you out. He took a deep breath. Okay, here I go. See you soon. Bye. Holly stared for a moment at the space where he had been.